Fabulous. All right. It seems like we are live. Welcome, fellow fools. And wait, now I got all tripped up. Hello, fellow fools, and welcome to the Foolish Friends podcast. My name is Bren. I use they, them pronouns, and we are here with, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm ALANNA. I also use they, them pronouns.
Fabulous. And today we're going to be talking about Saturn in Pisces. As we wrap up this transit, we only have what, like 14, 15 more days of this transit left as per the time that we're recording. So we wanted to just, now that Neptune has exited Pisces, we can see this Saturn story a little bit clearer. And as we come and approach the end of this, we just wanted to kind of do a recap on what this has offered us. So ALANNA, if you want to take us through the tarot draw to kind of get us started with what Spirit wants to lead us through.
Yeah, I think we can just ask for some clarity because the clarity is on offer right now that Neptune moved out of the way.
Mm-hmm. And what was the question that we were asking with this?
We were asking, what does Spirit want us to know as we end the Saturn transit? So like as we wrap up and as we get ready to move into whatever our next things are.
Our Saturn and Aries story.
Our Saturn and Aries story. Before that begins, what do we really want to know? And you and I were appreciating before we started recording that we won't get this kind of clarity with Saturn and Aries. We won't get like a Saturn without Neptune at all in Aries this time around. So
yeah. Well, and I do want to say too, with Saturn, Pisces is the end of the zodiac, right? So that's like the final ending. And then the Saturn entering Aries, that's going to be like the new beginning, the rebirth. So it just really seems like not only are we ending a cycle of Saturn being in Pisces, but it seems like of Saturn going its full cycle through the zodiac and really finishing out this bigger cycle. So then we can enter a brand new one when it enters Aries.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been thinking a lot about the having that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in that first degree of Aries. And what does that mean for all of us?
Well, and really? At the zero degree is the birth giving. That is like the Dr. Michael Lennox says it so well. It's the birth canal of the zodiac. It's like 0 degrees Aries is like, okay, if Pisces is the labor, like, okay, your life starts at 0 degrees Aries. So with that conjunction of Saturn and Neptune being right at that degree, it just really does seem like, okay, brand new visions of life, brand new structures of what it even means to be on this earth. What does it mean to be alive?
And what does it mean for us that this entire cycle of Neptune will have started with Saturn? And same for Saturn. What does it mean for us that this entire cycle of Saturn has started with Neptune? I know that typically that's not necessarily how we talk about transits, but when I talk about where something began, I think that's always just relevant. And
well, I find it really exciting because Neptune is something that dissolves and Saturn's the structure. So I feel like we are in a time where we can dissolve what structures are not helpful, but also we can build structures that are more aligned with the dream of the collective.
Yeah. Oh, that makes it so hopeful. Thank you for that.
I mean, we got to stay optimistic. Hope is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I found our card.
What's our card? Let's see it.
It's the King of Pentacles.
The King of Pentacles. Wow. Wow.
Were we not just talking about structure?
Yeah. Yeah. The king of our own material reality. I love that. I love the King of Pentacles. I feel like, well, and I was telling you before we recorded how I really think of Saturn being able to, if you can complete Saturn's lessons and hardships, especially in whatever sign it's in. So we've been, again, going through Pisces. We can actually experience a graduation of kinds and experience some sort of rewards from Saturn. Now, Saturn might give you physical rewards, but especially with Pisces, I see it less physical and more emotional, like more like, I know what I have and I know how I feel, and I have found some sort of structure in this ocean of Pisces, where it's like really unclear to have like straight rules, because different situations will call for different kinds of behaviors. So it's hard to have hard and set rules when it's fluid.
Yeah.
So I feel like this graduation, or like we're coming into this kingliness of ourselves and this structure with that King of Pentacles, with this graduation of like, okay, I can at least depend on myself. And I like to see kings too as like, they're not only in charge of themselves, but others too. So this king can hold their own, but also
responsible.
Yes.
Not just for yourself, but for others.
And also with the Pentacles being the resources, it's like, okay, well, I know what resources I have, and therefore I know what I have to give and what I don't have to give. Because a king also is going to set boundaries with like, well, a good king. I mean, it also is up to what kind of king you want to be, but a good king with like everyone's best interest at heart, the kingdom's best interest at heart. So it's like, oh, do we need to ration some things? Okay, well, we all get our rations, we all get what we need, but then no one's going hungry. No one's like going without.
Yeah.
Pisces is also very humanitarian, in a sense of collective compassion.
Yeah. Well, I've felt Saturn in Pisces as this experience of like, how do we build structure in the structureless? Like, I've been doing a lot of emotional work in my life, in order to kind of like feel boundaries around not just my feelings, but like other people's feelings as well, has been like a major theme for me. And in the past week, like feeling like getting a lot of evidence of that really moving towards something real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think you as like a Virgo probably understand that as like on a deeper level, that, in order to have balance in one area of your chart, so that Pisces area of your chart, you really want to lean into the balance of the opposite chart. So how do we find structure in the Pisces? Maybe it's by leaning into Virgo things like being of service physically to others, or literally having more routines or things like that to bring that structure to Pisces.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel like I know I'm biased as a Virgo rising, Virgo moon. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is how you build. You like try a bunch of different things and remain open to a bunch of different solutions to things. Like it's definitely not a Saturn sign. It's a little too flexible to be a Saturn sign.
Definitely.
But leaning into that as like, we can try different things and move it around until it's right, has definitely helped live through Saturn in Pisces.
Yeah. Well, and you've experienced this in your seventh house. And again, we did speak about this a little earlier, but like depending on the house that you're experiencing this in, you will have different lessons. So for you with that seventh house, I'm sure like having boundaries with the other has also helped you have boundaries with yourself, because that's two sides of the same coin. Whereas for me, my Saturn Pisces story has been in my 12th house, and I have been really having to bring that into my 6th house of day to day. Like, okay, if I don't want to lean into that 12th house, like escapism, problematic, like, just self undoing energy, I have to have routines that protect me from that and lean into those Virgo 6th house, like more work stuff.
And hence, time to get a cat.
Yes, and I did get a cat, and it's too bad she just left, but Frank, yes. I feel like that's actually part of my graduation gift, actually, from Saturn, is hey, you've been doing what you needed to do. You've been trying to undo a lot of these patterns. And we were talking earlier too about like, especially social media addiction. And I've had a lot of other addictions that I have worked on breaking. But I do feel like, yeah, that pet, that responsibility, that sixth house energy of like, you can't just escape into your phone all day or whatever, because you have a responsibility of like a literal life that is depending on you to stay structured. So that balances it out. And also it's a lovely gift to have a beautiful creature that loves you in your home, you know.
Yeah, truly a blessing.
Yeah. Have you experienced any sort of like graduation gifts? Again, like it doesn't have to be so literal.
Yeah, well, I felt like some of mine have been very literal, like even if it's not like a material object, you know, the conversations I've been having over the last few days, um, the like evidence I've been able to give myself of the work I've been doing over the last few years.
Like self-validation.
Yeah, like I feel like validation is really close, but it's more like like proof. Like
Mm,
I feel valid, you know, but like I have now this like evidence that yeah, I can stand up for myself in this way. I can stand up for myself against like situations that previous versions of myself felt very overwhelmed by. Um
mm.
yeah, I a Saturn seventh house transit is not for the faint of heart, I think.
Well, it's on a angle. I feel like any angular transits are going to be more intense
Yeah,
generally.
yeah. Yes. I, you know, as you know, I've been doing readings for 4 or 5 years now, and I have noticed that everyone I know who has gone through a Saturn in the seventh house transit, which like I know a lot of Leo risings, so I watched this
Mm-hmm.
happen before it arrived for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there seems to be like a lot of like negotiation also around like chemical relationships.
Mm.
So like a dependency on a particular drug.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like a lot of people I've watched give up alcohol when they have Saturn in the seventh house. I personally my body started
In the
rejecting.
seventh house? I
Yeah,
thought, oh, it's not just the Pisces story.
it's not just a Pisces story.
Oh, wow.
It's not just
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's why I've started talking about the seventh house as like relationships that change who we are. Because there's relationships in the 11th house, there's relationships in the third house, but like the relationships of the seventh house are like, you know, the first house is the individual, the seventh house is like where the individual disappears into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's why I've started talking about it that way. Because I've watched so many people have that like
Okay.
change in their relationship to a chemical. And then I experienced that. Not long after Saturn entered Pisces, I developed cannabis hyperemesis, and I physically cannot be exposed to any amount of THC,
Mm-hmm.
or else it's very bad for me and my body.
Yeah. And
So,
how did that relate to your seventh house? Like other people also were experiencing that?
well, yeah, like I said that I have a few Leo rising friends, and when Saturn was in Aquarius in their seventh house, I
Mm-hmm.
watched them all one by one say, "Actually, I need to stop drinking."
Okay. I see.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Is this also about relationships with chemicals?"
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was like, when Saturn entered Pisces, I was like, what am I gonna have to give up? Like, what am I gonna have to like not necessarily give up, but like modulate my relationship with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the seventh house is our mirror. So anything we have a relationship with can be a mirror. We talk about the seventh
Mm,
house a lot with relationships with people, but with what you're saying, it's making me think that it's also our relationship with anything, our relationship to substances, our relationship to our bodies, our relationship to so many things.
Mhm.
And so if we're seeing something in that seventh house from our first house perspective that we don't like, that's within ourselves because it's a sacred mirror. So then
Yes.
what do we need to do to then make ourselves more comfortable looking in the mirror?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that was really cool that you brought that up because I hadn't thought of it that way before.
I feel that I feel that as we all just watch transits happen over the course of our lives, we will gain more and more personal understanding of what the houses are. Because,
Well, and
like,
they
they're,
change.
huh?
The houses meanings, they kind of change at least through evolution, because like if we're researching ancient texts and things like that, the houses are going to have certain meanings, like the sixth house is slavery, and that's debatable. There's still slavery definitely in this
Yeah.
for sure, but like there's certain things that do, like technology for example is evolving, so that does shift like 11th house meanings from just like communities to then like internet. That wasn't something that was a thing back in the day. So I do
Yeah.
feel like, as like especially in this time that we're in, that's very generationally shifting,
Yeah.
with all those outer planets shifting, we're just going to see also the houses meanings deepen and shift.
Yeah. I think that maybe a more precise wording for that is that we are witnessing for ourselves further examples of like the
Mhm.
archetypal meaning of the houses.
Sure.
So like
Yeah.
the deeper meaning, I don't think is like necessarily shifting over time, but we're more like, oh, I see more like of what that could entail.
Yeah.
Because I think if someone invented the internet like 1,000 years ago, they would be like, that's your 11th house. Like
Sure.
they wouldn't put it somewhere different.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
I
we're just
like
coming up
how
with
you rephrase that.
examples. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you too, more about your interpretation of that King of Pentacles in regards to this Pisces Saturn story.
Into the Pisces Saturn. Sorry, I'm bringing up my little like, I still I get the vibes from tarot cards, but I like to still read um a description because I feel like it always inspires more understanding.
When you're so
Um,
mercurial, that makes sense.
let me see my resources.
Yeah, look at the words.
What is in the text?
Yeah.
I use the Labyrinthos app because it's so handy. But like these little affirmations they do. The affirmation for King of Pentacles is my resources are sacred. I treat them with respect and care.
That resonates so hard,
I
especially
know.
with Piscean resources. That's so emotional. And you and me
Yeah.
being so lunar too, so emotionally driven regardless, like it's hard to see value in something that's not tangible. And so I feel like, at least in my life, will just give away all of my emotional resources to people, because it's like, oh, it's not like it's money, it's not like it's, I feel like in our society we're taught that it doesn't have as much value as it does. And so that
Mm,
affirmation just reminded me of like how valuable that is. Like people literally pay therapists for their emotional labor.
yeah.
And I mean, it is the nature of my
We
work
should
too,
all
is
be paying therapists, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
We should all be paying therapists.
Mhm. But anyway, I was the one who asked the question. I didn't answer as well, but
um,
yeah, what are
yeah,
you?
I mean that really what you're saying like really resonates for me too. Like I'm just looking at the little picture of him. He's like really enjoying his dinner. Or
Mm,
maybe he's like sneakily decided that this can of tuna is for him. I don't know. But
ooh.
um I find that this deck is so literal, so like honestly a little bit sassy.
Oh yeah. Well, think about cats.
Yeah.
Well,
They're like, I'm not gonna hide my feelings. You're gonna see this.
mhm.
Um yeah, I feel like my Saturn and Pisces story has been a lot about stepping into my own emotional power.
Yeah.
And like understanding not just how much power I have, but how much responsibility I have.
Within those emotions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I find it interesting. You were explaining the imagery of that. Like when I saw the cat eating the food, it seemed like it wasn't food that was left on a plate, because also king these days also has a new meaning. And
Mhm.
we don't need to dive into all the politics of things, but like thinking about a king that eats the whole meal without sharing, or eating the whole meal also without saving some for later. That's kind of what that imagery, because it looks different than other King of Pentacles that I've witnessed in other decks. So it does seem a little more greedy,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, I'm biased because my orange cat will eat all the food. So I'm like, yeah, that's a greedy cat.
Yeah, but also your cat's name is Mars. And I
Yeah.
think that is powerful too. And like going after what you want. I think Pisces is also all about the dreamer of the zodiac. So if we're putting Saturn there, it's like, how do we solidify our dreams as well? How do we solidify our desires and going after what we want to in a
Yeah.
structured, more Saturnian way rather than the Mars way? But I kind of like the lesson that Mars has to teach us, your kitty cat, and like, why not just go for what you want once in a while?
Yeah. And I mean, also, who are we to say that like this was meant for anyone else but this cat? Do you know what I mean? Like,
That's true.
if someone wants to eat their whole meal, that doesn't mean make them greedy.
That's
They're just having what is meant for them.
that's true.
And
I
that's
think
not greedy.
that's so true. Well, and this is very much the duality of Pisces.
Mm,
It's the two fish, it's the yin and the yang. So also understanding that there's two sides of the same coin, they're the same thing, but like we can't be those martyrs of the Pisces of like letting anyone walk all over us, but we also maybe want to find balance within like not overtaking either. It's really hard to find that balance of like taking what's yours and doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, but
mm,
then also show up for others and share your resources if you have them.
mm-hmm.
Because as someone who is well resourced, they need to be very strategic about what they give away, because they won't have all the resources, or they won't have enough if they don't um, use them wisely. They can't just give it all away. They have to do it
Yeah.
methodically. And also, I think a lot about also like a king giving to maybe peasants or whatever in the kingdom. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you also don't want to give away so much that you enable them to not care for themselves, and like
Mm,
forget how they can also advocate for themselves.
mm.
I see the Pisces, even Virgo dynamic, sometimes being martyrs of like giving so much they actually don't empower the other person to get what they need
Ooh,
own.
ooh.
You can help someone, but also what's the difference between helping and enabling?
Yeah, that's so true. I cannot tell you how many relationships in my life have been me doing all the feeling, me doing all the like effort because the other person just needed my help.
Mm-hmm.
And then that takes away from them like fully participating in their own relationships because I'm like not saying what I need. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just looking at what they need. And then like they don't get to show up as a fully like effortful person as well.
Yeah,
Um yeah. So while I don't think that a king could possibly give too much to the peasants,
sure. Yeah, it's all metaphorical.
um yeah, I do think that like when we're in relationships that are meant to be reciprocal, yeah, we can give too much.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I share my meal, I'm gonna be hungry. And then I'm gonna be mad about being hungry.
Yeah,
And then who's
resentment.
gonna suffer my anger? You know? So
Yeah. Is there anything else in that, like you said, your mantra in that? Is there anything else from Labyrinthios or whatever that you wanted to share?
Mm. Well, I think something that I like here is that they have three keywords: abundance, prosperity, security.
Ooh.
And I see abundance as a very Piscean word and security as a very Saturnian word.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like, wow, we really pulled that card.
Yeah.
You know, we were asking about like what are we supposed to know about this Saturn transit? Um, can we have security in understanding our own abundance?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we believe in that? What
Mm-hmm.
can we build around that?
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we're not physically resourced, even though we're talking about pentacles here, but I'm thinking about Pisces in general. Like, what resources that do you have that are not tangible? Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
money is tangible. That's like a tangible resource. But what about talents that you have?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have a certain talent, that is your resource too. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
tangible. You can't just, you know what I mean? Like playing piano, even for example, like that is a talent and you can make money from that, sure. But it's also something that can heal people. It's also a different language that you can connect with the soul.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel too, especially in this
And
time
so
of,
it's a resource on so many levels.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially in times of like profound change and uncertainty like we're living right now. I mean, our ancestors lived through those too, but how can we pull from those, like, you know, our DNA, just like the wisdom within our bodies and the wisdom that were passed down to us generation to generation that we don't have to think about, we just feel and we just know without having to know in your brain.
Mm.
Because
Well,
yeah, our internal sense of strength and our internal sense of hope, I definitely feel like hope is a very Pisces thing too, and Saturnian. Like, how can we have hope when we have nothing as well, or when we
mm,
feel like we have nothing?
when we feel like we have nothing. Yeah, I mean, I think about like, you were mentioning like the things that we know because our ancestors knew them. I think in our time, I mean, especially as white people, I think we have to be really thinking about like, yeah, what did our ancestors know and then unknow and then learn and then unlearn. I've been reading a lot about um, all the violence that happened in Europe over like religious shit, like just literally pulling people like what stuff that we're living through over and over and over again because our ancestors also lived through. I just finished reading a book about all the witch hunts in Scotland, where people who were with every good intention, just kind of chilling and doing things that their grandmothers taught them, um, suddenly they're like being pulled out of their homes and tortured and killed, and all their neighbors watch it happen. And like this collective trauma
Mm-hmm.
happened. This is just one example of plenty of collective traumas, but like what got put into our DNA from from something like that, that's like letting people now do it all over again, which like it's happened a few times since then. But like as someone who like I have plenty of my family names come from Scotland, and so I felt very like in some way like connected to this story of like, wow, like my ancestors went through some really weird, bizarre trauma here. And what did they carry forward? And how do we get to heal them too? And maybe this is just me like immediately moving into Neptune and Aries, and that's my 8th house, where I put intergenerational trauma in the 8th house.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lot of knowledge from ancestors that's like worth bringing into our lives now, and there's also just a lot of like traumatic bad decision making, you know, being in survival mode and being really scared. You know, people who are in survival mode like are really easy to whip into like that fearful frenzy of like, yeah, you're right, like are my neighbors like taking my things?
Right.
You know, like that's encoded in DNA, you
Absolutely.
know. So yeah, I've been
Breaking
thinking about that a lot.
mhm.
Yeah.
Breaking generational patterns. One, I like that you brought in the 8th house. I definitely feel like the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th house are all houses that are associated with what we inherit. They're all water houses, and I know not everyone prescribes to this, and I don't even know how much I do, but I think there's value in understanding too that each of these houses are water houses traditionally. So the 4th house being associated with Cancer, 8th being associated with Scorpio, and the 12th being associated with Pisces. There's water there, and water is something that connects us all, like through DNA. Like that's something that we literally, all of our ancestors shared the same water that we are. Our bodies are made of the same things that our ancestors were. And
Yeah.
water is what also holds memory. So 4th house Cancer, that's our roots, that's where we come from. So that's what we inherit through those things. And then you were talking about the 8th house being the generational inheritances of like more psychological things, I would
Like
say.
spiritual wounds even,
Yes.
I would say. Yeah.
And the 12th house I see is, again, the Pisces, that's the ocean, that's the collective. That's what we inherit from the collective, not just the parents. It can be the parents, but you know, the 4th, yeah, all of those different houses I do feel like speak to the water of what we inherit.
Interesting.
Different levels. Yeah. So
Interesting.
with Saturn Pisces being associated naturally again with the 12th house, we
Yeah.
have been trying to resolve a collective inheritance, and we've been really feeling into like, is this what we want to lean into? And some of us are so traumatized that we can't make decisions beyond that, our trauma, you know. So the more that we
Yeah.
uncover it, if
Yeah.
you've been doing your work with Saturn and Pisces, I really do believe that that's not only doing work for you, but that's doing the work for the collective.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think that if everyone goes and looks at their own, not just personal trauma, but like ancestral wounds, we wouldn't be here. Like with everything that's going on that I don't even want to name for like almost just like algorithm reasons.
Sure.
Um, everyone knows what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. We would not be here if like it was normal and like everyone was really focused on like feeling their feelings and doing the like really long and hard and weird work of looking at ancestral wounds.
Yeah.
Because until we do that, like we're just doing this over and over again.
Right.
Like truly.
Well, and it is a privilege too to be able to do that, because especially if we're thinking about the society we live in now, like how are you going to have time to feel your feelings and uncover those things if you have to work to survive? If you
Yeah.
are in that survival mode you were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
And then you don't
Yeah.
even, sometimes it's an educational issue too. Sometimes people don't have access to resources like therapy or other, people might not even know it's wrong
I do
because,
want to say that like
yeah,
it's the people who are in power that most need to have done their trauma work.
yeah,
They have the time and they have the money to do therapy work. And for everyone else who's worried they can't afford therapy, there's resources like Open Path Collective, which is where I found my first therapist that helped me so deeply. And I only ever paid him $50 a session.
Yeah.
There are people out there like offering like affordable help, and it's really not on poor people to be the ones to be forking up the money and the time. Like, it's the people in power that like most need to do that. I'm sorry, I totally just interrupted you, but like
No, I love that. I think that's a good thing to address for sure. And why do you
Mhm.
think those people who do have the resources don't?
I
That's what
don't
blows
think
my mind.
sometimes I don't think they even know how deeply fucked up they are.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean fucked up in terms of like their nervous system is always active and they don't even know it. They're like living in a fear response, and that is normal to them. They think that that's what their body feels like, and that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything brings up this deep emotional reaction, this big emotional reaction, because they, collectively, we don't teach each other how to feel our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so we live with them like bottled up really weird, and then explodes out and we do mean things. And
Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
I believe we all need to take accountability. I want to start this, preface this by saying, yeah, everyone needs to take accountability, especially people in power, obviously, even more so than maybe the average Joe. That said, I have had experiences with insanely wealthy people. I went to a boarding school where I was like, I had access to people with like disgusting amounts of power and money. And what I learned is that just because, some people are so poor, all they have is money. And so I witnessed a lot of these kids that were like sent to this boarding school with me. And I went with my family. I was a scholarship kid. My parents worked there. That's the only reason I was able to go. But I was witnessing these people that had so much financial privilege, but their parents didn't care about them. And it's like, okay, well, their parents are off sailing their
yeah.
yachts or
How do you
doing
think their parents got so much money?
right. And so these kids, like, I feel like they are disadvantaged in a way because they just want love, or they just want, things that money can't buy, but all they have is the money. And so then they have this weird psychological like engagement with life. It's like,
Yeah,
that's why they go do these things, or they push the envelope so far. A lot of these kids were trying to do things too to get their parents' attention. And so they were doing things that were not good, maybe drugs, or maybe a plethora of things, harming other people, even just to
hmm,
try to get attention. And
yeah,
I do see a lot of people in power kind of like that. It's like, wow, your mommy and daddy really did a number on you. Like,
yeah,
you're not given what you needed. And I think, again, maybe this is my Pisces energy talking too, but even the people in power who are doing the worst things, there is a part of me that has compassion for them,
mm,
because there must have been something really wrong that happened. I do
yeah,
think that some people are just born evil. Like, I used to not believe that, but I kind of believe that in a way now. But I do think that most of the time people are the way they are because of things that have happened, or, you
yeah,
know, again, it's a systematic thing. That's what I'm talking about. This water, these water houses, these things that we inherit. Um, we need to be responsible for them. And I also understand why people are the way they are.
yeah, yeah. And I think holding that as like people who are currently doing some bad actions,
Mm-hmm.
I think that we do everyone a disservice and make this last a lot longer if we hold that they are for sure absolutely bad people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like, again, as white people, it's our responsibility to hold on to this, like, no, there's a reason that they're like that. There's like you and I could easily be a lot more like that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure why I grew up to have the feelings and opinions that I have, because I grew up in a very conservative place. I actually, like, I was talking to my spouse about this very recently. They grew up in a church where the belief was that, like, if you were prosperous in this life, that meant that you were a good person.
Right.
And I wonder how, like, that just feels like capitalism's religion, right? Of like, if you make a lot of money, you're doing life right and you're a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And so that maybe this is another answer to why like a lot of these people in power, a lot of these people who have a lot of resources might not be doing a lot of like therapy work, because they just might be believing this like paradigm of if you have a lot, it means you're good.
Right. Well, and
And
that also leads into the opposite, them feeling that people are down on their luck or who have less are lesser people or they're bad people. And
yep,
so they
that's
deserve what they are getting.
yep. That's where we get this like hate for people who need help. You know, we've always had all this like talk about welfare queens, which has
Right.
never been an actual problem in any way. I
Yeah.
honestly like, yeah, I forget where I was going to go with that one, but
Well, and talking about Saturn, these are the structures we're talking about.
yeah,
So I want to ask you something that just came to mind. Are these Saturn stories louder in Capricorn and Aquarius season? Because we are coming to the end of things, right? For the Pisces Saturn story. But now that I'm kind of reflecting, we are in Aquarius season and we just left Capricorn season. And I do feel that these lessons have amped up a little bit. They've been a little louder.
yeah, we have been shining a light on our Saturnian themes for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Yeah.
collectively and in the Pisces tint of things. And I do
Mm,
think that this is something that I've been thinking about too and reflecting on is Pisces Saturn can see Capricorn pretty well. They're in sextile to each other.
yeah.
Whereas Saturn Aquarius, or Saturn rules Aquarius and Capricorn. That's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
Pisces can't see the Aquarius end of that.
Yeah.
So does that evoke any messages from you upon reflection? Also, I do
Oh, I
see
don't know.
Aquarius and Pisces as being very humanitarian in very different
Yeah.
ways.
I mean, I see that as them being the last two signs. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like when we talk about the Zodiac as being the story from like individuation back into collectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what makes the shift from Pisces to Aries so freaking loud.
Yeah.
Um, but Aquarius and Pisces being, known for being these two like very humanitarian signs. I don't know, but now I'm like thinking about, I make everything in images in my head. So now I'm thinking of like Pisces and Capricorn over here are like Jupiter and Saturn buddies that like really get along with each other, and see each other easily and converse very easily. And then over here we have our like Aquarius and Sagittarius of the like Capricorn and not of the, yeah,
Jupiter.
of the Saturn and Jupiter buddies.
Mm-hmm.
These are so different vibes. Even though I think big picture, they all want to answer the same questions together. They're just like approaching it, so differently,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Oh, I
Oh,
I didn't
nice.
know it would give me a reaction. Oopsie.
Cool. You're being supported.
Um, wow. Google Meet agrees.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's just like an interesting thing to think about for a moment there.
Well, and I think of, okay, Capricorn Pisces. This is water, mutable water with cardinal earth.
Hmm.
Cardinal
Hmm.
earth builds things. So Capricorn is about achievement and building. And I
Hmm.
find it interesting that it works really well with Pisces, which is the dream. So it kind of works with like the dreamer is, Pisces is building the dream, and then Capricorn can put that dream into practicality, right?
Hmm.
When I think about Aquarius and Sagittarius, it's air and fire. And so it's more destructive, in my opinion, in a way, because fire can burn. It depends. But I think of like the Aquarius and the Sagittarian, like, what's it called? Stereotypes of like being really blunt and like read a room. You know, it's like, I know you're saying what needs to be said, but also, can you consider feelings in this at all? Like, it's like, no, this is just how it is. You need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, what are you
I
thinking?
have so many Sagittarius people in my life and angels.
Oh, are they
Gremlin.
not like that?
Well, I as a Gemini, I see it, you know, like Gemini Sagittarius being these like complementary signs where I'm like, yeah, you say that thing. You do
Yeah,
that thing. Okay.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
But I
Sometimes I
just
just have like little characters in my head of what the Zodiac are, and they're like, who are they? Who do they like to sit with at lunch, you know?
I think that's a great way of understanding it too. Because I think about even Sagittarius and Pisces, like they're both mutable signs, but they're
Mm-hmm.
squaring each other. They can see each other though, so that's cool. But they just, again, like I like Sagittarius energy because again, we need the teacher. We need someone who's going to be the educator. We need someone who's going to say it how it is. But
Mm-hmm.
also in the Pisces perspective, it can be really harsh and
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, just unpleasant
Mm.
in a way. They're mutable in different kinds of ways. What's
Yeah.
how do you see that relationship with Pisces and Sag?
Yeah. I, yeah. I see the mutable signs all as like maybe the most capable of rolling with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when stuff is kind of up in the air, I see the mutable signs as able to be like, okay, like maybe we change it this way, maybe we tweak this, maybe we go here. And I think that with Pisces and Sagittarius, it's not just that they share mutability, it's that they share
Rulership.
Jupiter rulership. Like they're both here for like that big picture ideal. Um yeah, and then they go about it in totally different ways that I think might drive the other crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so
And
interesting.
and as someone who holds both of the Mercury signs, I drive myself crazy with that
Yeah.
square mutability. Okay, let's try it. But also, why are you trying that?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and I see that it's so interesting. Yeah, the squares versus like the Saturnian signs, they're next to each other, so they can't
hmm
even see each other.
hmm
And, you know, Aquarius modernly is also ruled by Uranus, which is so different from Saturn.
yeah, I can't get into the modern rulerships.
Really.
Yeah, I think until I learned the modern rulerships first, and I was like, why are rulerships even important? Like I didn't get it. And then I
Mhm.
learned the traditional rulerships and I was like, oh, I get it now. I see how this makes sense. It just like
Yeah.
it vibes with
I
me
don't
so
know.
well.
Yes, I understand that. And I think it's just another perspective. It is kind of harder to
Yeah.
give merit to more modern thinking or modern ideas just because, you know, especially like where the, like who's coming up with this stuff. Like, but that's really anything. It's like,
Yeah, that's all of astrology. We all made it up.
yeah,
Well,
literally,
except for what was brought down by Hermes himself, obviously.
literally. But remember, Hermes is a trickster. So
Yeah.
remember that too. But I do think of like, you know, Neptune is very Piscean. Like that makes perfect sense to me. And
Mm,
Uranus being Aquarius actually makes perfect sense to me as well. I do think the like the both of them, like Saturn and Uranus together, is like a whole thing for Aquarius. But I also think there's just different brands of Aquarius. Like Aquariuses are the weirdos of the zodiac. It makes perfect sense that they would be associated with Uranus, but
yeah.
also, is this an Aquarius person that takes on more Uranian qualities, or are they more of a Saturnian Aquarius? I think that there's like different
Mm,
types, because my dad is an Aquarius rising. I totally see him as a very Saturnian Aquarius. I
hmm
have my own, well, and it probably makes sense too. Like I have my Mercury in Aquarius, and also, you know, Uranus isn't that far away. I also have Uranus in Aquarius, so maybe I'm also just like biased in my own way. But I totally
Yeah.
feel like if I'm more I'm more of the Uranian Aquarius than my dad. My
Yeah.
dad's the
Well, yeah,
Saturnian.
because you have Uranus there.
Yeah,
I'm going to say something so crazy that you might hate it.
let's do it.
I really like the feel of associating the outer planets with the sign they were in when we found them.
Ooh, yes,
So that puts Uranus in association with Gemini,
that would make sense.
and that puts Pluto in association with Cancer.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah. And where was Neptune?
I'm pretty sure it was actually Pisces, but we should check on that.
Well, that it tracks.
But also, I think that Neptune vibes with Pisces more than Uranus vibes with Aquarius and more than Pluto vibes with Scorpio. But I like
Really?
still giving Pluto a water sign.
Yeah, that is really interesting. The depths. Wow. Well, that's interesting that you bring that up because I mean, I'll have to like ponder that and really digest that, I think, through time to really like, I agree. I think that's really, I had that exact same feeling when I was reading this Chiron book. I'm reading this book about Chiron, and she argues in this book that Chiron's associated with Virgo. And I'm like, I can't with that. I literally can't with that. I also, I kind of understand Chiron being associated with Sagittarius just because the centaur thing, but also Chiron is not a centaur, just half human, half horse. So, but
Yeah, he has human feet
yes,
and a horse butt.
yeah. So I understand why
Not a
people
centaur.
would associate those things, but I was thinking the same thing with you. I'm pretty sure Chiron was founded in when it was in Taurus, and we're actually about to enter Chiron Taurus
Interesting.
very soon. So we're about to have our first 50-year cycle of knowing Chiron since the 70s, and now this will be the first full completion. So I would agree. But also, I don't really see Chiron as a Taurus either, but I don't know. I was thinking
No,
about
I don't know. I want to sit with that a little bit. Like, I kind of like that.
well, and let me look. I think my Chiron book's right here. I just want to look at the chart, the birth chart of Chiron, or at least the discovery of it. But we don't always discover things either when, I don't know, I do have a little bit of a hesitation of just like automatically assigning it to the sign that it was in when it was discovered, because that could have just been its 10th house instead of its first house. You know what I mean? Or like
Okay.
of the planet's birth. Because like
I
when were
think
the yeah.
it's also relevant to understand that like we don't always know exactly the first time something was found. Like with Uranus, actually, it was already discovered and then was like officially talked about it later.
Which is so Uranian.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
birth.
it is a visible planet. I don't know if you know that.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is so Uranus. It's like so hard to track because its orbit is so unusual.
Mm.
That's why they didn't think it was a star.
It was my understanding that like they thought it was just a regular star in the background because of how slowly it moved. And we
Oh,
needed like more precise technology to arrive in order to understand that, yeah, actually that is moving, or we needed to watch it for a long enough time
that makes
to
sense.
understand that it was moving.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
According to this book, Chiron was discovered when it was in at 3 degrees of Taurus on January 10th, 1981.
Mm.
Which I thought it was the 70s, but no, that's so interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So something definitely to consider with these placements. And also the more that we just also intuitively understand the stars, like not everything is from a book. Like I do believe in researching our ancients and like knowing the history of these things, but maybe this is my Jupiterian nature too. It's like, well, but also like how are we experiencing this ourselves instead of like reading the cookbook astrology too of like, you know, and
Yeah.
as I was reading this Chiron book, I like this lady's Barbara's takes and everything, but also there are certain points that I was just rolling my eyes because it's like maybe you feel that way because maybe that's your bias in your chart, but I don't feel that way because maybe my bias in my chart.
Yeah.
or just we're in different generations, because that book
Kind
is
of like
also
how I was like, yeah, of course you would think that like Uranus is associated with Aquarius because you have Uranus in Aquarius. I
it
can't tell
makes
you how often, you know, I'll be in a reading with someone and I'll say what a particular like alignment of, you know, planet in sign in house is, and they'll just kind of look at me like I said something so obvious, like why is that interesting? And it's like, that's not about everyone. Like,
yeah,
not everyone feels that way. I know that you think that that's what life is about, but like, not everyone aligns like their identities in the same way. Not everyone does relationships in the same way. And so when you're accurately reading a chart at someone, like they think that you're just stating the obvious over and over and over again.
yeah,
Um, and
that's
then, yeah, but it's
yeah.
not.
I mean, although I mean, again, I think I need to look at more now that this idea, because I hadn't really had the idea of like having someone having more of a Saturnian versus Uranian, like Aquarius, until this conversation. So
Mhm.
I do think about like certain friends of mine who are Aquarius. It's like I can tell like they are just more Uranian, but is that because they also have Uranus in Aquarius, which makes them more Uranian? I need to diversify my charts a little
Or like
bit.
if they have Uranus at an angle, especially in
Right.
first house, if they have Saturn and Uranus conjunct, which is a lot of people just a little bit older than me, they have
Yeah.
the millennial conjunction
Yeah.
of, that's what I call it, Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
You know, the way that they build structures is non-traditional. Oh, I keep giving the thumbs up. But like I think that's where like the millennial like longing for the homestead comes from.
Yeah.
Like let's go back to like very Capricorn, build some structures with Saturn, but do it in a way that you want with Uranus and Neptune, giving you like kind of very rebellious ideals of farming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. I feel like I have a lot to like marinate on after this conversation, because yeah, that's just a total different way of looking at things. And I think it's good too to also like as an astrologer just not take everything as set in stone. Like
Mhm.
certain things, yeah, I guess Mars will always be associated with Aries, but maybe not. You never know what other
Mhm.
asteroids we might find or other planetary bodies. Like who knows
Mhm.
what we haven't discovered yet.
Mhm.
So, and also maybe even solar systems itself. Like we only are very focused on our solar system, but what if other solar systems are also impacting our solar system like are the planets do? So then it's an even like bigger thing. It's like a nesting egg thing.
Yeah.
How deep does it go?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I like that. I mean, in some level, it's like, okay, well, at what point do you stop and just call it, this is what is astrology and this is what isn't? But
yeah,
like, I think we're already pretty set on like what our personal, like really close in influences are. Like, we
yeah,
already know, obviously, the biggest forces acting on us, the sun, the moon, and the like, really the inner planets. And by inner, I mean like Saturn and in,
yeah,
which is not an accurate way of saying inner, but you know, personally, on like such a tiny scale, because we are on such a tiny scale, we are such tiny creatures. But zooming out and zooming out and zooming out, I think like seeing, you know, what's happening with the collective. That's how we zoom out and
yeah,
get the really big things. So,
yeah.
um, at some point very soon, you and I need to talk about the basket
The
that's
basket?
happening in July.
What?
Go look up the transits for like July 22nd.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. This whole
Yeah.
year ahead, I've been telling my clients, it's like I don't really know what's coming, but it's all going to be different. Like where we are a year from now is going to be very different than
Yeah.
where we're at now.
I've started bringing it into personal readings of like, hey, and also I know we're talking about your transits, but let's talk about how your stuff is getting may or may not be getting activated by this huge alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and in tandem with all of the other stuff that's happening, we're shifting, we have 4 different eclipses. Well, we have 4 eclipses in 4 different signs this year, which is not always the way that it rolls. And we have this huge outer planet that doesn't change signs often, Neptune entering Aries permanently. We also have Uranus entering Gemini permanently this year, and also Saturn shifting signs. And Saturn's more of a personal planet, quote unquote, but still is shifting the story of everyone very, very deeply. And yeah, there's just a lot of big last year, this year, really big moves.
Yeah. And then to have all 3 of the outer planets at 4 degrees of active signs.
Yeah.
Sextiling each other. And then Jupiter will show up.
In fire.
And ring that bell. In fire. Yeah, we will definitely find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
One way or another. We will know.
Yeah.
What it's about very soon. So
well, I do feel like all of these things are telling us, like us living through this time too, is that we have the opportunity to be pave makers. Like we can pave the way for the future ahead. So it's up to us, like on the individual level. What are we doing on the individual level to then build for the collective? And I do think that's really Neptune Aries too. Aries being very much about the self and our personal dreams, but also that adding to the collective dream, because sometimes our personal dreams, us achieving that will allow others' dreams to come true. If I build a business and I'm like really into, I don't know, like murder mystery, I don't know why this came up, but like then I can hire actors who really want to be murder mystery actors to then follow their dreams, so that's just like an example. But just know that we each have a responsibility and we each have an opportunity and power to build the collective dream through our personal dreams this year, especially. But paving the way.
I have a quote up on my like board here, and it says, "The collective unconscious depends upon each individual's authenticity to fulfill its greater design."
That's so Aries Pisces, or sure, Aries Pisces.
Aries, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's like, how do we build the collective with the individual? How do we have the individual inside the collective?
Yep.
Yeah.
That seems like it'll be very clear this year ahead.
Yeah, we'll find it out. Yeah.
Are there any last ideas you want to share before we close out?
Oh no, I feel like we talked about so many more things than I could have even guessed.
I know. I love how this actually, well, you and I are both lunar first houses. So I feel like we both are like in that lunar, like, how do we feel? Let's just like feel into what needs to be shared. And
well, yeah, that's why I named our meeting Moon People Chat. So
I love that. I love that. My lunar friends. Yeah. And you're a very grounded, earthy moon, Virgo moon, which is very helpful for my fiery Aries moon. So,
I think that Virgo and Aries, like, we talk about them as if they can't see each other, but I think that there's this like indelible connection between cardinal signs and mutable signs. And the mutable sign is like, I think we can make something new. And the cardinal sign gets to answer it with like, I know exactly what we can make.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I also think about at least how I bond so much with Virgos is Virgo rising has Aries in the 8th house. And so I do feel like under the surface, Virgo understands the psychology of Aries, because that's what they have underneath the surface, but don't access like right on. So I've noticed that sometimes my Aries energy can definitely trigger Virgos, because that's more of a hidden Virgo element sometimes, but also Virgo just understands because that's the psychology that they're living in a way. And I feel the same way with how I feel about Scorpio risings. Oh yeah, because I'm an Aries rising, so I feel the same way with Scorpio risings, because that's in my 8th house. So I just kind of feel like I get Scorpio risings, they get me, because we have that like unspoken eighth house connection of like what's under the surface. I don't know. That's just what I've noticed. I also could be biased for a lot of other reasons, but
that's so fair. I think that like eighth house synastry is underrated.
Yeah.
Like my spouse and I, like we have our moons are in each other's eighth houses.
Well, and that's the deepest bond you can have with someone. You and I were talking earlier about how the seventh house or the eighth house is like an extension of the seventh house, but it goes even deeper than the seventh house. It's like, okay, how are we literally relying on each other for our resources to be like, for our needs to get met? It could be literal resources, but it also could be like emotional resources. Like, again, that psychological understanding, you can't put a value on that because it's just so like, to have someone understand the deepest parts of you is invaluable. It's like,
yeah,
so intimate. It's very intimate. I think eighth house is a very intimate house.
Well, we are trying to wrap up, but we kept yapping. So
Fabulous. I mean, that's our style. But anyway, if people want to book
met on purpose on a Gemini moon. So
oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if people want to book with you, how can they find you?
They can reach out through my website, which is sacredshadowastrology.com. I publish moon letters. I've missed the last two because I was very busy with a different project, but I'm regularly sending out a letter for each new moon and full moon. And my plan for today is to work on my next one. So I know that this conversation has shaped what I'm about to sit down and write.
I'm so excited. Well, and if y'all have the privilege of signing up for that moon letter, definitely do, because it has some great insights. And who better to learn about the moon from than a lunar person, you know? So I love your takes because I feel very seen in what you share. So thank you for having that free resource. Yeah. And people can sign up for that moon letter on your website too. Perfect. Fabulous. And if you want to book with me, you can visit me at fortuneofthefool.com. And all of this will be linked in the show notes. So you can just come find us if you have any questions or want to connect with us. We would love to hear from you. Additionally, if you want to leave a comment, like, subscribe, share, support us. We would love to grow this community so we all are stronger, know more. So without further ado, thank you, foolish friends. Stay foolish, stay safe, and enjoy this upcoming year of beautiful chaos. Bye.
Bye.